So, the Iron Lung movie came out, and I kind of got a tiny bit obsessed with it. So much so that I've now seen this film 4 times in cinema, and I cannot just leave this written down in a book, so I have to yap. But a theory I have that answers 2 questions. Question 1, what was the Quiet Rapture? And question 2, what really happened to Simon? This is what I call the Pinhole New Eden theory. Spoiler warning, heavy spoilers, you've not seen the movie, click off and go and see it. During the movie we get this little piece of dialogue. An ignorant god sees a sliver of our universe through a pinhole, and thinks it understands all that is and all that will be. When I first heard that, my mind was racing with thoughts around it, especially in the scene that follows, in which Simon sees this light and then is transported to a field of blood with an ominous eye in the sky. And that's when it hit me. What if God looked into our universe through a pinhole, and what if that pinhole, that sliver of our universe, was a section of the human body? If that is God's only understanding of our universe, then all that's left is blood, gore and bone. And this is what then became absolute truth of the universe, being all that remains in it. This does not explain the empty space, nor why space stations remained, but for the sake of the theory, let's say that dark matter interrupts the influence of this God's reach. This is the basis for the answer to question 1. What was the Quiet Rapture? This is what will form what I call the pinhole theory, but it does go deeper, and there is a reason why the pinhole theory and the New Eden theory are both separate and intertwined theories. The New Eden theory focuses on Simon's encounter with the light, the SM8 and the Eden symbolism. Throughout the movie there is numerous tree symbolism, from the way the porthole glass cracks, to the way Simon is rooted in place in not just the blood fields, but also the climax where he loses his arm. And that's excluding the very ideology and cultural relevance that is the last tree in the entire universe being on Eden Station, and the children of Eden all get a seed pendant. And at the very end of the film, Simon merges with the seed and becomes a tree. This is what blows up the SM13, destroys the monster, and causes roots to spread across the bottom of AT5. I have seen this movie 4 times and only saw this in my last watch. I want to clarify, I could be wrong about all of this, it's just what I noticed on my last watch. The crew of the SM8 become the monster that Simon encounters, which we can assume from the fact that the monster uses the voice of the lead SM8 scientist, and the skeleton of the monster is what appears to be 2 malformed human skulls merged together. So why does Simon become a tree when the SM8 crew becomes the monster? Well, when Simon encounters the light, there is an acknowledgement of each other. "I see you" is repeated by both the entity and by Simon. There is no further conversation, but the entity in the sky says, "Agreed," before we cut to black. I believe that this comes back to the pinhole theory, and that this is God perceiving Simon. But the difference between the SM8 crew and himself is intent and desire. Both Simon and the SM8 crew are absolutely terrified of the situation, so you can put fear down as a common factor of perceived emotion. However, the SM8 crew are fueled by curiosity, and they willingly give themselves up to the light, one of the crew members even drinking the blood intentionally, and perhaps his submission made this God assume that all is as should be. There was no misunderstanding of his interpretation of our universe. However, when it came to Simon, he is fueled by a pure desire for survival, and just wants to live. Yes, in the end he acknowledges that the black box is more than him, but everything Simon did was done so that he could live. I just want to live. Is that so wrong? Why doesn't anybody else want that? In Doctor Who, there is an entity called the Empty Child. It was a child killed by a device that fell during the London Blitz. But the device contained nanobots that could repair people. It was a medical alien ship, but these nanobots had no understanding of what it means to be human. They have no template or reference, and so it mended this boy in the only way it knew how. It fused the gas mask to the face and kept the scar on the back of his hand, because that was his first encounter of humanity, that's all it knew of us. And so when it came across other people who didn't have gas masks, it assumed that they also need to be repaired, and they became these gas mask zombies. This is what I think happened with the Eye. In Iron Lung, when God looked upon us, he saw only blood, gore and bone. It had no template for how the universe was supposed to be. And Simon challenged that understanding in a way that the SM8 crew could not. And so the agreement made with Simon was one of acknowledgement. Simon couldn't be saved, he was too irradiated, but through him, new life could happen and return to the universe once again. Simon becomes New Eden. I mean, when the sub is breached and Simon's transformation is occurring, the sub starts getting its oxygen back. And what do trees do? Take CO2 and turn it into oxygen. In addition, the very song that plays is called Transformation during that scene, and that is what I call the Pinhole New Eden theory. Thank you for watching. Never made anything like this before. Need to yap more about it. God, there's so many ideas going through my head.